Anyway, I'm Clarissa Bennett. I'm 30. I work in logistics, and I make around 90K a year. Nothing insane, but enough to live comfortably, keep a decent apartment, and not panic every time my car makes a weird noise. I'd been dating my boyfriend Evan for about 6 months when this story went down. He's 27, works at a marketing agency, constantly talking about client relationships, brand positioning, and networking opportunities. You know the type: good with people, charismatic, clever with words, always on. When we met, that charm was intoxicating. 6 months later, I realized it's also what makes it so easy for him to blur every boundary in sight. And the biggest blurred line had a name: Kendra. Kendra is his ex-girlfriend. They dated for 3 years before me. They broke up about 8 months ago. And of course, they stayed close friends because they work in related fields and have mutual professional connections. Those were Evan's favorite lines: related fields, mutual connections, strictly professional. At first, I tried to be mature about it. I'm not 16. I know adults can maintain ties to their exes, especially if there's a work overlap. I told myself I'd be the understanding girlfriend, the secure one, not the jealous one. But Evan's version of professional boundaries was basically no boundaries at all. Kendra texted him constantly, long message threads at all hours. There would be nights when we were watching a movie on my couch and his phone would light up. Kendra, can you talk? Emergency client thing, LOL. He'd pause the movie mid-scene, half apologize, and take the call in the kitchen. Work, he'd mouth, like that word was supposed to be a magic spell. Their work calls would last 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. I'd hear bursts of laughter, flirty teasing, inside jokes I wasn't part of. Then he'd come back, throw an arm around my shoulders, and act like nothing was weird. And it wasn't just calls. Kendra invited him to industry events, mixers, launches, rooftop parties. The kind of things where people clink glasses and pretend they're not trying to outbrag each other. Evan loved that scene. I didn't. So most of the time I stayed home, told him to have fun, and tried not to let my stomach twist when he sent me mirror selfies in his blazer. The pattern bothered me. The way he glowed after nights out with her, the inside jokes that slipped into our conversations. But every time I tried to bring it up, I'd get hit with the same script. Clarissa, you can't seriously expect me to cut off half my network because it makes you uncomfortable. You say you trust me, but then you question every interaction I have with a woman. If you can't handle me having female colleagues, maybe you're not secure enough for a serious relationship. Classic. Make me feel like the crazy one. Standard manipulation. But I'll admit, it worked for a while. Because I wanted to be the cool girlfriend, the understanding one, the I'm not like other girls, I'm chill kind of woman. I swallowed the discomfort and told myself I was just overthinking. Until that Monday. It was a normal weekday evening. I'd just finished half a sad salad and was scrolling delivery apps to undo my healthy choice when Evan looked up from his phone and said casually, "Oh, so, heads up. I've got dinner plans Wednesday night." I didn't think anything of it at first. "With who?" I asked. "Kendra," he said, like he was telling me he'd ordered a latte. "She wants to meet at that new place downtown, Maison Verde? Everyone's talking about it. It's like midway between our offices, so it's perfect." Maison Verde. I'd seen it online. Candlelit, intimate, way too expensive. The kind of place people got engaged in. Not exactly where you imagine spreadsheets and marketing strategies being passionately discussed. I tried to keep my tone light. "Okay, what time should I be ready?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "Oh, you're not coming." That stung a little. "You said you had dinner plans. I assumed it was us." "This is just Kendra and me," he said, finally glancing at me like I was being unreasonable. "We're going over some potential collaboration opportunities. Work stuff." There it was, work stuff. The disinfectant he sprayed on everything that smelled suspicious. A little red flag popped up in my brain. "Business dinners don't usually need romantic Michelin wannabe restaurants," I said carefully. He sighed, already annoyed. "It's not romantic, Clarissa. It's convenient. It's central. The food is good. Can't two professionals have dinner without it being some soap opera in your head?" "I'm not asking you to never see her again," I said. "I'm telling you, I'm not comfortable with you having one-on-one dinners with your ex in cozy candlelit places." "They're not dinners, they're meetings," he shot back. "We're discussing strategy, leads, cross-promotion. Kendra has industry contacts that could benefit my career. That benefits us, by the way." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "At a romantic restaurant on a Wednesday night?" He stared at me like I'd just suggested banning him from using email. It's just dinner, Clarissa. Stop being so controlling. There it was, the word, the one he knew would shut down the conversation. Controlling. It's funny how that word hangs in the air like a verdict. You hear it and immediately start questioning yourself. Am I? Am I being unreasonable? Am I suffocating him? I'm not being controlling, I said quietly. I'm being your girlfriend, telling you I'm not okay with you going on dinner dates with your ex. They're not dates, he snapped. You know what? I'm going anyway. I'm not going to let your insecurities sabotage my professional relationships. It would have been easier if he'd yelled. Instead, he said it in that calm, patronizing tone, like he was the rational one and I was the emotional liability. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, really looked at him, the way he'd already mentally moved on from the conversation, the way his jaw was set like this was a non-negotiable, like my feelings were loud background noise, nothing more. Okay, I said finally. Do what you want, Evan. He seemed almost relieved, like he'd won. He kissed my forehead, called me babe, and went back to his phone, no doubt scheduling his little meeting. What he didn't notice was that something in me had quietly snapped into place. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to threaten to leave and then stay. If he wanted to treat me like I was overreacting, fine. I'd stop reacting. I'd act. On Tuesday afternoon, during a mind-numbing hour at work, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I landed on a name I hadn't thought about in a while. Ryan. Ryan and I had gone on a few dates before Evan and I became official. He worked in finance, drove a nice car, always looked put together, and had this calm, steady energy I liked. We'd ended things on good terms when my thing with Evan started getting serious. We still followed each other on Instagram, occasionally liked each other's posts. Nothing more. My fingers hesitated for 1 second, then I typed, Hey, random question, are you free tomorrow night? There's this new place downtown I've been wanting to try. The typing bubbles appeared almost immediately. Maison Verde? Been dying to check it out. Is this casual dinner, or are we calling it a date? I stared at the message, feeling the irony soak in. Evan, preaching about professional dinners. Me, inviting an old almost something to the same restaurant. I took a breath and replied, Let's call it dinner and see how it goes. Fair enough, just text me the details, I'm in. Reservation step, easy. I called Maison Verde and booked a table for 2 on Wednesday at 7:45 p.m. As I confirmed my name and time, I could practically see Evan sitting there with Kendra, laughing over appetizers and red wine, confident that I was at home being understanding. He wanted his dinner. He could have it. He just wasn't going to be the only one eating well that night. Wednesday evening, Evan spent more time getting ready than I'd seen in months. He put on his nicest blazer, the deep navy one that made his eyes look lighter. He chose the slim-fit shirt he wore on our third date. He spritzed cologne, not the everyday one, the expensive bottle he saved for special occasions. I watched from the bedroom doorway as he adjusted his cuffs in the mirror. Big night? I asked. Just a meeting, he said, not turning around. You know how it is. Right, I said, very professional. He finally glanced at me in the reflection. There was a fleeting flash of guilt in his eyes, quickly smothered. Don't start this again, Clarissa, he muttered. Please, not tonight. I smiled, slow and steady. I'm not starting anything. Have a productive meeting. He grabbed his keys, his phone, and his ego, and headed for the door. Don't wait up, he added casually. I didn't answer. I just watched him leave. The door clicked shut behind him. The apartment fell silent. I checked the time. 6:32 p.m. Then I walked back to my room, opened my closet, and pulled out a dress I hadn't worn since before I met him. If Evan wanted to treat me like I was the problem for seeing the obvious, then fine. I'd let the truth introduce itself in person. Maison Verde looked even more dramatic in person than it did online. Golden lighting pooling over every table, velvet chairs, soft piano music drifting from somewhere unseen, the kind of atmosphere that whispered intimacy even when you tried to pretend it didn't. I arrived at 7:39 p.m., a little early, heart thudding in my chest in a slow, heavy rhythm. Not the panicked kind of heartbeat, more like the kind that happens right before a truth finally reveals itself. Ryan pulled up right on time. Sleek charcoal blazer, crisp shirt, that effortless confidence he always carried. When he stepped out and smiled at me, the tension in my chest loosened just a bit. Clarissa, he said warmly, you look incredible. Thank you, I said, meaning it. You too. We walked inside together. The hostess glanced at us. Then her eyes flicked over my dress, Ryan's hand brushing the small of my back. and I could almost see her thinking, first date or anniversary? Reservation for Bennett, I said. Right this way. She guided us through the restaurant, and that's when I saw them. Evan and Kendra, corner booth, window seat, candles glowing between them like they were dining in a commercial for romance. Kendra looked stunning. Long black hair, perfectly curled, a deep emerald dress that screamed money and confidence. Evan was leaning in toward her, laughing, really laughing, like he hadn't in weeks with me. For a moment, something stung in my chest so sharply I had to inhale slowly to keep my expression neutral. Ryan followed my gaze. That them? That's him, I said quietly. And her. He let out a low whistle. Well, they look cozy. Very professional, I murmured. The hostess seated us 2 tables away, close enough to see everything, but not too close to seem intentional. Only Ryan knew the placement was perfect. As soon as she left, he asked, "Okay, be honest. Are we here because of them?" I swallowed, then nodded. Yes. He said I was being controlling for not wanting him to have dinner with his ex. Ryan stared at me for a beat. Clarissa, that's not controlling. That's common sense. I gave a humorless smile. I know that now. He leaned back, studying the room. So what do we do? I shrugged lightly. We eat, we talk, we let the universe do what the universe does. Ryan grinned. Sounds like a plan. The meal begins. We ordered wine. Nothing fancy, but good. Conversation flowed easily. Work stories, travel mishaps, a few jokes that made me genuinely laugh. It felt normal, even comforting. But every few seconds, my eyes drifted toward Evan and Kendra. And every single time, Evan was touching her, light brushes on her arm, leaning in too close, giving her that soft smile he used to give me. Professional networking, apparently. About 25 minutes in, Kendra gestured animatedly at something on her phone and leaned into him. Evan moved closer, shoulder brushing hers, eyes sparkling. I felt Ryan's eyes on me. You okay? He asked gently. Yeah, I said. Honestly, this is giving me closure I didn't know I needed. Good, he said, raising his glass. Then let's enjoy the food. We clinked glasses. But then, just as Ryan said something funny about a coworker's disastrous presentation, I saw it. Evan froze. His gaze locked onto me like he'd been electrocuted. His expression shifted so fast I almost laughed. Relaxed, confused, panicked, guilty. Kendra followed his stare. And when she saw me sitting comfortably with a handsome man, her eyebrows shot up in interest. Then suspicion. Oh, Ryan said, half smiling. Target acquired. Evan whispered something to Kendra. She frowned at him. Then she looked back at me again. Longer this time. I didn't break eye contact. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. I simply lifted my wine glass and took a slow, deliberate sip. Ryan whispered, Clarissa, remind me never to get on your bad side. The texts begin. Evan's phone buzzed. His hand darted to grab it. He typed furiously. My phone lit up seconds later. Evan, why are you here? I turned the screen toward Ryan. He raised a brow. Tell him the truth. I typed back, Clarissa, having dinner. Food's excellent here. 10 seconds later, Evan, with who? I angled my head slightly. Should I answer? Ryan smirked. Oh, absolutely. Clarissa, Ryan, you remember him. A longer pause this time. Then, Evan, this is inappropriate. I actually laughed, out loud. Inappropriate? Ryan repeated. He's unbelievable. I texted, Clarissa, why? You said dinner with friends is normal. That's what we're doing. Evan didn't respond. But I didn't need a text to know how he looked. I could see him from where I sat, jaw tight, grip on his fork too firm, knee bouncing under the table. Kendra was asking him questions he clearly didn't want to answer. I watched him lie to her with his eyes. She didn't look convinced. The unraveling begins in real time. Kendra excused herself to the restroom around 8:30. Evan sat rigid, staring at nothing. Ryan leaned in, voice low. He's spiraling. He should be, I said. Do you want him to come over here? No, I replied. I want him to sit with the discomfort he created. Ryan gave me a look of admiration that warmed my chest. Clarissa, you're handling this like a queen. But I wasn't trying to be regal. I was trying not to collapse. Because seeing Evan with her, it hurt. It really hurt. But something inside me was also waking up. A part of me that knew I deserved better. The confrontation. At 9:15, Evan flagged the waiter for the check. Kendra returned, looking irritated but composed. They gathered their things and walked toward the exit, passing directly by our table. I kept my gaze steady. Ryan rested his hand casually near mine. Evan stopped. Clarissa, he said tightly, we need to talk. About what? I asked softly. Dinner? His eyes flashed. Don't play games. I tilted my head. I'm having dinner with a friend. Same as you. This is different, he hissed. How? I asked calmly. Because you're doing this to make a point. I smiled. I'm doing this because I wanted to try this restaurant, and Ryan was available. Isn't that what you told me? Dinner with friends is normal? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Kendra crossed her arms behind him. Everything okay, Evan? He didn't answer. I glanced at her. Hi, Kendra. Enjoy your meeting? Her eyes narrowed. We should go, she told him. He hesitated, torn in two directions. But Kendra didn't wait. She just walked out. And Evan followed her. Of course he did. The moment they were gone, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Well, Ryan said, that was dramatic. More dramatic than I wanted, I admitted, but not more dramatic than he deserved. We finished dinner. We laughed again. I let myself enjoy the rest of the evening without pretending nothing was wrong. Because the truth was already out in the open now. What came next would decide everything. I didn't hear from Evan the rest of that night. No, got home safe. No, we need to talk. Nothing. Which honestly told me everything I needed to know. Because if he'd felt innocent, he would have spammed my phone with explanations. The silence meant he was scrambling, trying to rewrite the version of last night that made him look like the victim. By the time I fell asleep, my anger had cooled into something quieter, heavier. Not rage, just clarity. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing on the nightstand. Over and over and over. 8 missed texts, 2 missed calls. Evan, I stared at the screen for a moment, then unlocked it. First message, 10:57 a.m. We need to talk about last night. Of course. About what exactly? I typed back. The reply came quickly, like he'd been waiting. Don't do that. You know what about. Showing up at my dinner with Kendra. I blinked, actually amused. He really had convinced himself it was his dinner, his night, his setting. I was the intruder. Evan, I didn't show up at your dinner. I had my own dinner at the same restaurant. There was a pause. Then, you're not seriously going to play dumb. You followed me there. I exhaled slowly and rubbed my temples. I made a reservation on Tuesday afternoon. You can call the restaurant and confirm. Because that part was true. The second he'd thrown controlling in my face, I'd picked up the phone and made the booking. I didn't know 100% he'd choose Maison Verde, but I knew him. I knew what he wanted to impress his ex with. He took longer to respond this time. Why didn't you tell me you'd be there? Why would I? You made it clear this was your dedicated networking time with Kendra. I didn't want to interfere with your professional relationships. For a full minute, nothing. Then my phone lit up with a call. I stared at the screen, then answered. Clarissa, he said immediately, voice tight. You blindsided me. Good morning to you too, I replied. This isn't funny, he snapped. Do you have any idea how awkward you made things with Kendra? I laughed, a small, disbelieving sound. I made things awkward? You mean when you saw your girlfriend eating dinner with someone else at the same restaurant where you were on a date with your ex? It wasn't a date, he shot back automatically. Neither was mine, I said calmly. Just dinner. And you said I should be fine with that, remember? He went quiet for a second. Then, you did this to punish me. I leaned back against the headboard. No, Evan, I did this to stop feeling like the crazy person in the story you keep rewriting. Stop twisting things, he snapped. Kendra was really confused last night. She asked me what the hell was going on and why my friend was glaring at us. Friend, I repeated, my voice cooling. Is that what you told her I was? Silence. I felt my heartbeat slow, that kind of slow that comes right before impact. Evan, I said quietly, what exactly have you told Kendra about us? He exhaled, annoyed. Why does that matter? Answer the question. Another pause. Longer. Finally, he said, I told her we're seeing each other, but that it's not exclusive yet. The words landed like a slap, even though some part of me had already suspected it. Not exclusive, I repeated, after 6 months. I didn't want to complicate things, he rushed to explain. You know how sensitive she can be about relationships. If she thought I was locked into something serious, she might have backed off, and that could have hurt our ability to collaborate professionally. So, I said slowly, to protect your professional collaboration, you let her think she still had a chance with you. That's not what I said, he protested. That's exactly what you said, I countered. You told her I was casual, optional, background noise. You're overreacting, he insisted. It's not that deep. I streamlined the truth to keep the peace. You streamlined the truth, I repeated, almost laughing. You mean you lied. You lied to her about me, and you lied to me about her. He sighed hard. You're blowing this out of proportion. Evan, she thinks you're basically single. Meanwhile, I'm at home trying to respect your work dinners with your ex, being called controlling every time I say I'm uncomfortable. Do you not see the problem here? He was silent. I pressed. What did you tell her last night when she asked who I was? Someone I know, he said, from work. A hollow feeling opened in my chest. So that's what I was to him in that moment. Not his girlfriend, not his partner, just someone. Clarissa, he said quickly, like he could hear the shift in my breathing. This is just how networking works. You don't understand how delicate these relationships can be. If Kendra thinks I'm in some intense committed situation, I repeated. Do you know how that sounds? He groaned. You're twisting everything. No, I said, voice steady now. I'm seeing it clearly for the first time. I pictured Kendra sitting across from him, paying for expensive dinners, giving him access to her contacts, believing there was still space for them, believing I was just a minor detail in his life, not something real. Did you enjoy it? I asked quietly, having her think she still had a shot. That's not fair, he snapped. Did you enjoy letting her buy you dinner while she thought you were half available? I pushed. Because you didn't correct her, Evan. That's the part that matters. I didn't ask her to pay, he said defensively. She offered. She likes feeling generous. It's part of her persona. I actually had to pull the phone away from my ear for a second. I stared at it, then put it back. You really don't hear yourself, do you? I said. He fell silent again. You let an ex who still had feelings for you fund your fancy restaurant habit, I went on, my voice soft but sharp. You reassured her you weren't in anything serious. Then you came home to me and called me controlling for not wanting you to keep milking that. You're making this sound so predatory, he muttered. What word would you prefer? I asked. Strategic? Opportunistic? Efficient use of emotional resources? He didn't answer. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't loud or tense. It was decisive. Evan, I said quietly, you didn't just blur boundaries. You erased them. You made me feel crazy for having basic ones. I made some mistakes communicating, he said finally. I'll own that. But seeing you with Ryan, that hurt. That was deliberate. Good, I replied. He inhaled sharply. Excuse me? Good, I repeated. Now you know what it feels like to sit across a room and watch someone you care about act like you're optional. That's not the same, he argued. You did it to make a point. I did it to mirror reality, I said. This is the relationship you created, Evan. You wanted options. You wanted to keep things open with Kendra while keeping me in your back pocket. That's not true, he snapped. I care about you. I want to build something with you. You had 6 months, I said softly. You spent them convincing your ex you were still on the market. He exhaled shakily. Clarissa, please don't throw this away over one misunderstanding. This isn't one misunderstanding, I said. It's a pattern. It's the foundation. I can fix it, he insisted. I'll tell Kendra everything. I'll explain we're serious, that I downplayed it, that it was a mistake. I'll set boundaries. I'll loop you in next time. Just don't end this. Not like this. For a second, the old part of me wanted to give in. The part that hated conflict. The part that believed if I just forgave him harder, he'd magically become who I needed. But another part of me, the part that sat through a candlelit dinner watching him flirt with his ex like I never existed, was finally louder. There shouldn't have to be a next time, Evan, I said. You don't start showing respect after you get caught. That's not respect, that's damage control. He was quiet. When someone shows you that they're okay with you being a secret, I added, believe them. Clarissa, please. No, I cut in. We're done, Evan. Silence, not even breathing on the other end. You can call it controlling if you want, I said. I call it choosing myself. And before I could talk myself out of it, I ended the call. Blocked his number. Muted the entire conversation thread. Just like that, the constant buzzing in my life, his calls, his justifications, his "you're overreacting," went silent. Later that day, mutual friends reached out. Evan's freaking out. He says you showed up to his meeting on purpose. He says you embarrassed him in front of an important contact. I didn't defend myself. I didn't send long explanations. I just replied, ask him what he told Kendra about our relationship, then decide if you still think this is about me. Because I'd already decided. Evan spent months twisting reality around his convenience. The second the truth walked into the restaurant, his version of the story started to crumble. He called me controlling. But I wasn't the one trying to control two people's perceptions of reality at the same time. He was. And the thing about that is simple. You can only juggle lies for so long before gravity gets bored and drops them for you. 6 weeks. That's how long it took for Evan's carefully curated little world to collapse. Quietly at first, then all at once. I didn't hear from him after I blocked his number. Not directly, at least. But mutual friends, coworkers who orbited the same industry circles, and even one of his colleagues, who never liked him but definitely liked tea, reached out in small, scattered bursts, each message dropping another puzzle piece into place. The picture that formed wasn't pretty. Kendra finds out the truth. It started with a rumor told to me by my friend Lucy. Kendra's furious. She said she feels stupid for believing him. Apparently, the night after our restaurant showdown, Kendra confronted Evan, not gently. She asked why he'd lied, why he said he was casually seeing someone when he'd really been in a half-year relationship, why he described me as a friend from work, why he let her think she still had a chance. From what I heard, Evan panicked. He tried to pitch it as a communication slip, then a misunderstanding, then misaligned expectations. Kendra reportedly laughed in his face. Not a cute laugh, a shredding laugh. And I don't blame her. Because the thing about networking in their world, the stylish marketing events, agency mixers, elite dinners, is this. Reputations move faster than job offers. Kendra wasn't just hurt, she was embarrassed. And embarrassment in professional circles spreads like wildfire. By that weekend, she had pulled the collaboration project, the industry contacts she'd opened for him, the couple of client leads she floated his way, and even the potential event partnership he'd been bragging about. When she cut ties, she didn't do it privately. She did it in group chats, at brunches, at industry coffee meetups, during after-work drinks. People didn't even need the full story to start backing away from him. Just one sentence from Kendra circulated everywhere. He misrepresented his relationship status for professional leverage. That was enough. Nobody wants to collaborate with someone who lies to maintain access. Evan tries to spin it and fails. A mutual friend, Brooke, sent me a voice note one morning while I was packing orders at work. Girl, Evan is in full crisis mode. He's telling people you blindsided him at that restaurant and sabotaged his professional dinner. I raised an eyebrow. And, she continued, everyone keeps responding. Why would you need to hide your girlfriend at a professional dinner? He kept trying to reframe the narrative. Version A, I was insecure. Version B, the dinner with Kendra was strictly business. Version C, he downplayed our relationship out of professional necessity. But the more he explained, the worse it sounded. Because once you take the emotional mess out of it, what he did was simple. He treated his relationship as a bargaining chip. And when people realized that, doors closed. Quietly. No drama, no announcements. Just subtle, permanent distance. The industry has a way of silently exiling people like him, not because they care about the morality of his actions, but because no one wants someone unpredictable in their network. Meanwhile, my life moves on. Contrary to Evan's predictions, my world didn't crumble. I slept better than I had in months. My apartment felt calmer. My mornings didn't start with anxiety. And Ryan? Well, what started as a, let's just get dinner and see where it goes, turned into something gentle, steady, surprisingly meaningful. He didn't overwhelm me. He didn't push. He didn't guilt trip or accuse or manipulate. He just showed up, consistently. No games, he said one night when he picked me up for dinner. No ambiguity. If we're talking, we're talking. If we're together, we're together. If you're unsure, you tell me. It's not complicated. Simple. But simple felt revolutionary after Evan. And the best part? He never brought up Evan unless I did. He didn't need to compete with ghosts. He was his own person, confident, grounded, and he treated me like I was, too. The last attempt. Around week 5, I received a message request on Instagram. Evan, I know you blocked me. I respect that, but please hear me out. I told Kendra the truth. I told everyone the truth. I'm trying to fix things. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment. Then I deleted it. No response. No second chances. No reopening a door that led nowhere healthy. Because here's what I finally understood. Boundaries aren't control. Honesty isn't insecurity. Refusing to be disrespected isn't manipulation. Evan had spent 6 months convincing me that my discomfort was the problem. But in the end, the truth revealed itself. He wasn't protecting his professional relationships. He was protecting the lie. 6 weeks after the dinner, I ended up back at Maison Verde, this time by choice, with Ryan. We sat at a table farther from the window, but the lighting was the same. The soft piano was the same. The wine was better than I remembered. And halfway through the meal, Ryan made a soft joke that had me laughing so hard I had to cover my face. As I lowered my hand, I noticed something across the restaurant. A man sat alone at a table near the back. Blue blazer. Same cologne I once bought him for Christmas. Evan. He looked tired, Older somehow, phone sitting face down on the table, no messages lighting up the screen. It hit me with surprising softness. I didn't hate him anymore. I didn't miss him. I didn't want him back. I just hoped, genuinely hoped, that he learned something from the wreckage he created. Because his version of networking wasn't sustainable. Not personally, not professionally, not ethically. As Ryan poured me another glass of wine, I leaned back in my seat, content and warm. "You look different," he said. "How so?" "Like someone who's finally not carrying someone else's lies anymore." I smiled. "Feels that way." And it did. It really did.